We all want to feel peace in our lives. Peace in our choices, our beliefs, our relationships, and our environment. I've learned that this desired contentment is often found through holding on to less. When we pare down what we own, what we consume, and what we value, we're left with what's intentional, a personalized curation of what is important and true and useful to us. I'm Shannon Leyko, and you're listening to Paring Down, a podcast aimed at helping you declutter not only your home, but any area of your life that's overwhelming. Here, we're having interesting and honest conversations about the physical and mental clutter that drowns out what truly matters to each of us. And together, we'll learn how to pare it all down, not for the sake of perfection or becoming rigid, rather so we can move through life with less overwhelm and more joy, wisdom, and peace. Hi, everyone. How are you? Okay, I have to admit that as I began this podcast, the first thing in my head was, do I do a millennial pause every time I greet my listeners on the podcast? I just learned that a millennial pause, if you must know, is when you take a breath. Like, I guess there's like a slight pause before you start your sentence when you're recording a video of yourself. Listen, Gen Z has lost their minds. Am I not allowed to breathe? First, you take my hair part, then you take my socks, and now you're taking my my actual voice. Like, I am Ariel. You are Ursula. Gen Z, you're stealing my voice. You're telling me I'm not allowed to breathe. I can't. What's happening in this world? Anyway, I have thoughts about that, obviously, which I wrote about actually on my blog this week. So I'll link that for you because I decided I wanted to get back into blogging. I've been blogging for 13 years. A lot of you guys might know that. It's gone through many iterations. Like, it all started back when I was 23 years old. I was moving to New York City and I was like, I should keep my parents informed of what I'm doing and like that I'm alive. And so I started a blog and they were the sole readers. And then it kind of like grew from there. And then it turned into Generation Granny because my nickname is Shanny the Granny. And it was like Generation Y, which is like another word for millennials in case you forgot. And it was like a granny trapped in a Gen Y body. And that blog took off because I started doing Bachelor recaps. If any of you guys remember my Bachelor recaps, I miss doing them so much, but they were so time consuming. But basically I would watch The Bachelor, the show, the TV show, or The Bachelorette. And as soon as an episode would air, I would write down my recap of it. Like, I would write down what's happening in the show, but like with my sarcastic peanut gallery commentary. And it kind of blew up. And like Chris Harrison, he commented or found it or something. And so then all the contestants found it. And then I had a couple contestants block me because I never said anything trying to be like mean at all. But like sometimes I would just like poke fun, at like maybe their outfits or something. And I guess I upset some of the contestants. Anyways, so I was like kind of this like rebel in the Bachelor world on my blog. Like, what a time. I really I look back and I'm like, what has happened in my life? I don't even know. So anyways, now it's the expert beginner. And I kind of want to change, you guys don't care about this, but I kind of want to change the name of my website. So just like shannonleyko.com to just like make everything easier now that I have a book, I have a blog, I have a podcast, I have a newsletter. There's a lot coming at you. And, but anyways, I don't feel like changing the domain right now. I don't know. It's just like not high on my to-do list. So it's still theexpertbeginner.com. And I haven't written a blog in a couple months. And I was like, it is time because I have feelings about what I just said, my millennial pause. And so if you want to read that blog post, you can go to the link in the show notes and read what I had to say about it. Anywho, I'm just glad you're here. Millennial pause or not, I hope you love me. We are talking today about paring down really our spending habits. We're going to talk through 15 practical ways to spend less money. I know that that's hopefully something that, especially in the last week, you have probably been thinking about just because it's been Amazon Prime Day. So if you were on social media at all, you've been bombarded with messaging to buy stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm over it. I'm going to bombard these people with a message not to buy stuff. So here we are. That's my inspiration for today. And listen, living an intentional life really does include being intentional about where you spend your money. It really matters. And if you're like, well, why does it matter that much, right? Because money isn't a morality issue unless, of course, we're keeping it from people who are in need. But let's talk about that. Okay, so Why is money important? Why is spending less money important? It's not just to quote save. Yes, saving is good. Maybe saving for retirement, saving for a rainy day fund, saving for a trip you want to go on. I love all of that. Let's be good stewards of our money. But big picture, there are two big reasons why saving or not spending money is really, really important. Number one is generosity. You will have more money to give to others, which will result in a fulfilling life of purpose if you save your money, if you don't spend it on excess or things that you just don't need to spend it on. And why is generosity so important other than the fact that, it helps mankind? Well, if you're looking for like a personal reason, a recent study by the Ascent shows that high generosity people were 23% more likely to be satisfied with their lives overall. They were also happier in their relationships, their jobs, and with their possessions. I mean, that's motivating right there to be more generous. If you want to be selfish, to be generous. You know what I mean? Like that's a selfish reason to be generous. And I don't think there's anything wrong with acknowledging the selfish piece of generosity. If you listen to that episode actually that I did with Glenn Van Pesky, he's the ultralight backpacker. Love him and loved his episode. We talked about that, how generosity feels good for the giver as much for the receiver. Another piece of this research says that 80% of high generosity respondents felt that life was meaningful, compared to 60% who fell into the less generous category. And when it came to people who said that they had a very meaningful life, the high generosity people outnumbered low generosity people by almost 3-1. More than twice the amount of people who said that their life felt very meaningful were also very generous people. That's important. I actually just finished the book called Things That Matter by Joshua Becker. Oh my gosh, it's so good. I don't hold on to many books. I've talked about this before, just in terms of like paring down my possessions, but there are certain ones that I hold on to that I absolutely love, that have like my highlighter all up in them, that I'm like, when my kids are teenagers, they're required to read this and I want them to see what mommy highlighted. And also I want to go back and read my highlights or read the whole thing at some point. I don't have many. This is one of them, Things That Matter by Joshua Becker. Anyway, inside of it, he talks about purpose. And I feel like purpose always has this kind of like vague meaning attached. We're like, everyone needs a purpose. And we're all like, what the heck does that even mean? But we all do. We have this like innate pull inside of us to be part of something greater. And like, we know all of the stories about people on their deathbeds. They look back in life and they have all these regrets because they realize that the most important things, their purpose in life, are, what is it? Other people, their relationships. They wish they had spent more time, investing in their families, being around their kids, being part of the community. All of those things are what actually matters. And we know that logically, but so many of us fail to take the steps to ensure that we're living a purposeful life while we have the time to do that, before we're on our deathbeds, before we're looking back with regrets. And one of the things in Joshua's book that I really loved was he made this Venn diagram where like the intersection of three components make up our purpose. And those three components are our passions, our abilities, and then how it meets a need of other people. And that third component, meeting others' needs, is really where you go from a goal to purpose. It's really about other people. And we live in a world that says, oh, you're going to be happier if you focus more on yourself. Stop thinking about other people so much, really focus on what makes you happy. And that's just not a timeless truth. If you think about last week's episode with Suzanne, all of these episodes, they all kind of come together when you start putting all this wisdom, from all these different people together. The timeless truth is that generosity truly is what brings you fulfillment in life. It's good for you. It's not just good for people around you. And so when we're talking about ways to spend less money today, the hope is that you can then take your money and spend it generously, not only for the benefit of the world around us, but also for your own satisfaction, purpose, and fulfillment in life. And then the second big reason that it's important to talk about spending less money is the idea of getting out of debt. A study from Purdue published in the Journal of Happiness Studies, love that journal, found that the higher the debt to income ratio, the lower the overall happiness. So debt isn't just a matter of being stressful, being annoying, being frustrating, not allowing you to be able to do the things you love. Like overall, it decreases your happiness and your fulfillment. That's why I wanted to share today how to spend less money in a practical way. It's for your generosity and for your own happiness, which all kind of go together, as you just heard me say. So, some of the things that I'm going to talk about, you can easily change and start doing right now. Like you'll be able to do today or tomorrow. And some of these are going to be bigger, more substantial things that you won't be able to do right away, but they are ideas that you can chew on as you move through life and come across some of those big bridges, those big decision-making moments. I hope that you can draw on some of those things that I talk about here today. And we aren't talking about removing temptations. So this isn't a list about like unfollowing people like influencers on Instagram or, deleting the Amazon Prime app from your phone. We're not talking about don't go to Target or make a list when you go to the store instead of, shopping willy-nilly, or you need to meal prep. Like all of those are amazing ways to save money. Love them so much. I'm sharing very, very specific things to start doing to save money. We're going to start with my favorite because it's my podcast. So, my number one favorite way to not spend money is using say it with me, people, library. I love the library. I've talked about it in 1,000 episodes, even though I think this is only episode 42. I have indeed talked about it in probably 10% of my episodes. I think the library is the most underused resource we have in these United States of America. Okay, you want a meeting space? Library for free. You want to read all the books? Library for free. You want puzzles for your kids to do? Library for free. I could go on and on. The library has so many resources that we can use for free. It's awesome. One of the things that scares me the most about the political landscape, actually, that's not true. There's things that scare me far more about the political landscape than people not using the library or not funding the library anymore. But I don't like the idea. I'm so scared that our libraries are not going to be funded anymore because they're the best. And on a personal level, if you're a reader, why are you spending money on books? I say this to myself. I used to spend so much money on books. Like, let's say I would buy 2 books at Target a month. That's like $30 minimum, probably more like $40 to $45. And if I was reading more than that, which at one point I was reading like 4 books a month, which I actually did this month too. So sometimes I still spike back up to that. But like if I'm reading a book a week, I mean, gosh, you guys, we're talking about like hundreds and thousands of dollars a year. And if you just go to the library to get your books, it's so much better. I don't want to talk your ear off about this because, as you guys probably know, if you're a regular listener, I can easily go on a library tangent. So I'm trying not to do that today. But you guys just like look it up in your area. Go get yourself a little library card. Use it for the Libby app if you like to listen to audiobooks. I'm currently listening to The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin on Libby. It's the best. You might have to have a little patience if like the book you want at your library or on the Libby app aren't like ready this second, but also like you want to save money, right? And there are probably a million other amazing books that you can get your hands on the second as you wait for the book that you really want to read. Just read something else in the meantime. You're probably going to be glad that you did. So one, use the library. Number 2, practical way to save money or to spend less money is to eat what you have. This is not just about meal planning. I'm talking like when we got home from vacation this past week, 2 nights ago, 3 nights ago, I don't know what day it is, but we were so tempted to just like order Chinese. We're like, okay, we know the kids are going to eat chicken lo mein if we get it. And we're tired. Neither of us feel like cooking. And we just didn't want to. I don't want to, right? Like when you get to I don't want to moment, like we were at a crossroads. We could either spend money on Chinese food, which somehow always ends up being like at least $50, right? You're like, how? I'm just buying rice. What's happening? But anyway, instead of doing that, I was like, honey, let's split the task. We can eat food here because I have some chicken in the fridge. That's like Kevin's chicken. I don't know if you guys have that. It's great. Love it. And it's like good for weeks in the fridge. So we had one of those still in the fridge. I was like, we just put that over rice. We have coconut curry chicken on rice. It'll be great. But both of us were like standing up and like doing something in the kitchen sounds miserable. So I was like, let's split the task. I will get up right now and I will go get the pot and I will put water in it and start the boil. And then when it's boiling, you can get up and you can go pour the rice in it. And that's all either one of us has to do. I have to boil water. You have to pour in rice. And that's what we did. And we ate our Kevin's chicken, and it was $9 total for a family of 5, instead of 50. So use what you have. And with that goes like please make food that you like. Half the time, the reason we want to eat out is because actually I just listened to a hilarious episode from the Frugal Friends podcast. Again, I've recommended them before. Go listen about how to save money when you're eating or save money on food. And she talked about Sunday Jen versus Wednesday Jen. Like Sunday Jen goes grocery shopping, but Wednesday Jen doesn't want to eat the same thing Sunday Jen eats. And that's how I feel 100%. And so I had to learn that Sunday Shannon needed to be a little less healthy because sometimes I just really want chicken over rice instead of chicken over a salad. You know what I mean? And so just make food that you like. Start there. Another quick thing about eating what you have, is we were getting ready to go on our road trip last week to Ohio, and I didn't want to buy more food that was going to spoil, while we were gone. And so I knew I wanted to make sandwiches on the road. So I didn't have any more sandwich bread because we'd used it up, but I certainly didn't want to buy another loaf. And so we had leftover burger buns. And so I made tuna fish sandwiches on burger buns for our road trip sandwiches. So use what you have. You have burger buns? Great. If you only have wraps left, make I don't know, peanut butter and jelly wrap. Just use the food that you have and you will save so much money. There's a lot more to be said about saving money on food, but I'm going to leave it at that. Number 3, wear what you own. This one, you can go back and listen to the episode about creating a simple and ethical closet with Lacey Woodruff. I keep, talking about other episodes I've done, but it's actually fun to think about how so many of these episodes come together as a whole to help us. I mean, that's the whole point, right? I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I should be yes, this is what this whole podcast is about, is helping. But I don't know. Sometimes it's just nice to look back and be like, oh, look at that. I have a resource for that. So anyway, wear what you own. I wore a dress last weekend in Ohio. We went to a wedding, and instead of buying a new dress, which is my go-to, I like to buy a new dress or rent one from Rent the Runway even for an event. But I was like, you know what? I can just wear this other one that I already have. And I'm here to tell you, I had just as much fun at that wedding as I do when I'm wearing a brand new dress. And I got compliments on it. And nobody was like, oh, didn't I see a picture of you wearing that a year ago at that other wedding? Nobody, nobody cares. I promise. Even if they complimented me a year ago and then they complimented me then, which didn't happen, they would probably just be like, oh, you're wearing the dress I love again. They wouldn't be like, boring. I want to see you in something beautiful and new, Shannon. What are we even thinking? So just wear what you own, okay? Don't buy new clothes. Have you been able to cover your private parts for the last couple of months with what's inside your closet right now? Then you're good to go. As long as your body is covered in a manner that makes you feel comfortable walking out in public, you don't need to buy new clothes, okay? So just save money by wearing what you own. Number 4, homemade gifts. So I don't know about you guys, but I feel like we are always having to give gifts, or we want to give gifts. I mean, talk about generosity. That's a great thing to do. But I also feel like I can't afford to give as many wedding gifts and birthday present gifts and holiday gifts as the amount of people I love, as there are those people, right? It's a lot. So we have started doing a lot of homemade gifts. My husband makes sourdough bread. So I can't claim that I make the gifts, but we give bread away all the time. It's the best. I give pictures away, especially to family. People have a hard time printing an 8x10 or a 5x7 or even 4x6s. It's a big mental hurdle for a lot of people. So all I have to do is go to printique.com because I'm so used to doing it. PRINTIQUE.com. They have high quality prints, and I will order some pictures for somebody. That does kind of cost money, but it's way less than a normal gift. So listen, it's still a win. I love to do little handprint cards. Erin knows that for Mother's Day, literally all I want is something with my kids' handprints on it. Even though they do it at school all the time, I can't get enough of my kids' hands. I'm obsessed with them. So he made me a bookmark that had the kids' thumbprints, that he made them into little hearts. It's the best bookmark ever. So just think about homemade gifts, and it's okay. I mean, literally people lose their minds with happiness when I give them a loaf of bread that my husband made. Again, not me. Number 5, turn off the lights, religiously turn off the lights. in your house, okay? Because I will never forget this. When I was a teenager, I don't know if I had a class or something that told me you can save money by turning off the lights, or maybe I was worried about the environment. I don't really remember what my motivation was, but I remember that like I got on this kick of being obsessed with turning off the lights in our house. And I did it for like a month. And then the next month, I just went back to my old ways of just not caring. And I remember my mom being like, she was walking through the kitchen and I was coming down the stairs. She wasn't even talking to me, but she was like, why is our electric bill so high this month compared to last month? I don't understand. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, it's me. I made the difference in the bill. I certainly didn't tell her it was my fault. I mean, I probably should have tried to take credit for like the month that I saved us a lot of money. But anyway, we won't go back and therapize younger me's reasonings for why I did what I did. But I didn't tell her. But I did think in my head, oh my gosh, I'm turning off lights all the time from now on because we must have saved a lot of money, or it must have cost us a lot more money just for me to like leave the lights on willy-nilly. So here I am, 36 years old, obsessed with turning off lights, always have been. And I did some research for you. So if you have a 40-watt light bulb, which is not bright, let me tell you, it's like not a super bright bulb, and you leave it on for 8 hours a day, because let's say you just like don't turn it off before going to work, okay? And usually those bulbs or like that light switch is going to be connected to like 3 or more bulbs. Let's say 3. I'm actually looking up at the light in my bedroom right now, and it looks like there's actually 4 bulbs attached to it. So I'd say 3 is on the low end. Like if I turn on a light switch in my kitchen, it turns on 3 bulbs. A lot of us, it might turn on 8 bulbs, right? It depends on the size of your house and that kind of thing. But we're going to say 3 bulbs, 40 watts. So not even bright. It's going to be a lot more money if it's a brighter bulb too. For 8 hours a day, you don't turn it off in a month, that's $30. So let's say you regularly left 2 lights on, 2 light switches on when you go to work. That's $60 a month. Okay. That's crazy. And it's not always going to be as cut and dry as like 8 hours a day in a row, but just like leaving things on when you don't need to adds up so fast. So be absolutely insane about it like I am and turn off the lights. I mean, I go through the house and turn off the lights no matter what when we're leaving. Like I can't leave the house unless I've gone through and make sure every single light is off. And it doesn't take much time if you live in a smaller house. Also, why we live in a ranch. And this will be something that we talk about in a second when it comes to those bigger things that you can't necessarily change right now. But I will say that a big benefit of being a military family is that we move often enough that we have learned what kind of house we like and what we don't. So hopefully when we settle down in our forever home, it's going to be pretty darn close to perfect for what we want. But we have definitely learned we do not like 2-story houses because I don't want to run upstairs and check on lights, nor do I want to, run upstairs to do anything or run downstairs when I forget something because I'm lazy. So ranch houses it is. But anyway, yeah. So just turn off the lights, even if it's hard. I'm sorry if you live in a 2-story house. Number 6, be strategic about where you get gas. So you will probably notice that there are, let's say there's 2 gas stations and they're 3 miles apart. One of them will be like 20 cents less a gallon. It's wild how big the difference in gas prices will be depending on what area of town you're in. So Aaron and I, we always get gas on our way to church. That's how we get gas. Because if we just wait until it's time to get gas and we run out kind of at a different time or wherever we are, and we end up getting gas near our house, it's so much more expensive. But where we go to church, there's a gas station out there that's like way cheaper. So no matter how full or not our tank is, we get gas on Sundays before or after church. So just really be strategic about where you get gas and don't just do it when you need it. Do it when you know you're going to be next to a gas station that doesn't cost you a lot of money. Number 7, work out at home if possible. Gym memberships are so expensive. Even the ones that are $10 a month, that's a lot of money a month that you could use to be generous, right? You're talking about $120 a year, and you could use that $120 a year and say like once a year, I'm going to give $120 to this organization. That makes a difference in the world. So don't go thinking that $10 a month doesn't. But most gym memberships are a lot more than that. And that is a lot of money. And I know that some people say, I love going to the gym. I don't want to work out at home. And if that's you, by all means, continue forth, my friend. There are certain things that are worth spending money on. We're going to get to the whole like making your coffee at home thing. And like that is one thing that I've decided I don't have to do, even though I did. I'll get there. I'm going to stop myself. So anyways, but work out at home if possible, especially if you're not someone who is really great at being super consistent. So I love to work out. I use my elliptical and my dumbbells all the time. I've had my elliptical for 6 years. It has gotten a lot of use. But am I like one of those people that is so consistent and that I haven't missed a workout in years? No. I usually do like 4 months of consistently working out 4 times a week. And then I like forget about it for a month or two. And then I'm like, oh man, I need to work out. And then I get back in a rhythm of it. Like I'm just not as consistent as some people are. It's really not part of like my identity. I like to be healthy, but it's not a hobby. So anyways, if that's you, if you're someone who like kind of falls in and out of working out, I would suggest just trying to do that at home if at all possible. You can get machines pretty cheap because everyone's selling them on Facebook Marketplace because so many people just use them as like towel dryers, you know what I mean? So you don't have to spend a lot of money on a machine. And even if you spend like $600 on a machine, which would be way more, that'd be a newer machine. But let's say you got a new machine, then you're going to pay that off by not going to the gym for like 7 months later. You know what I mean? Like that's going to pay itself off. So I definitely suggest working out at home if it's possible. Number 8, use cloth towels whenever possible instead of paper towels. This one has been so big for us. You know, these reusable items like paper towels cost so much money. And we still do use them sometimes because we have kids that are like gross, right? And like I just sometimes just need to throw away whatever disgusting thing is that I'm cleaning up. But we use cloth towels for as much as humanly possible. Wiping up spills, we'll use them as napkins. We just use cloth towels constantly. We have a big drawer of them and it's the right amount because if I don't do laundry for like 2 days, then we're low on those towels or almost out. But we probably have like, I don't know, 15 to 20 of them. So that tells you how often we are using them. But they will pay for themselves really quickly as well. And they don't have to be fancy or cute. Ours are just like white. And now they're more like gray. All right, number 9, don't replace things immediately. Do not say, oh, my daughter lost her favorite pink bow for her hair, so I need to go get her a different pink bow for her hair. No, you don't. She can wear the blue one, and then you never know. She might end up liking the blue one. Or I think I've told the story about how I didn't replace their jackets last year, and my kids were cold one day, and so I was like, put on 2 sweatshirts. And then I went to a friend's house, and she was like, oh, do you want this jacket for Joe? Like, it doesn't fit my daughter this year because her daughter is a year older. And I was like, oh, great. Thank you. Or, they grew out of their shoes or cleats and they needed new soccer cleats. And we went to the first day of soccer practice and they were just wearing the regular tennis shoes and there was a whole table of free cleats to choose from. So just like don't replace things immediately. You might be surprised that you could just get by without it. Like see it as a win. Be like, well, that was decluttered because my kids broke it. Thanks for decluttering, children, by breaking that. Just generally speaking, think through it when you are tempted to replace something. Like maybe a towel got a stain on it. Do I really need this towel? Do I need the number of towels I have? Or like, could I get by without one more, and see what happens? Number 10, no new backpacks or art supplies at the beginning of every school year. Parents, hear me on this. Hear me. Your kid does not need a new backpack every year. Oh my gosh. My kids had used the same backpack for probably 3 or 4 years and they were gross. I mean, I washed them, but like my kids don't treat their backpacks well. And they still lasted for that long. And probably I could have even stretched them longer. I think one of the zippers started to break on one. So just remember that your kid doesn't need a new backpack or new whatever every single school year. It's a waste of money. It really is. And we all know that like back to school lists cost us so much money. I think about the kids whose parents are like barely getting by when I go for back to school shopping in the past. I've been like, how do parents do this that don't have enough money? I don't understand. And that's where donations come in and all of that. And so I do make an effort if I do buy supplies. I actually am usually each year buying supplies to give to the teacher and say, can you please give this to a student who doesn't have supplies? And then my kids, they don't get the new supplies. I go through all of our markers on a piece of paper. It takes me 8 minutes total. And I find red, orange, yellow, green, blue, black, brown markers that still have, ink in them. And that's what they take to school. So like, I don't need the new color of the rainbow markers for them in a box. Like I can probably find them in our art supplies we already have at home. Same thing for crayons. I can find the rainbow color of crayons that we have. I can resharpen. I love sharpening pencils. It's so satisfying. What does that say about me? I don't know, but sharpening pencils really, really does it for me. And so I will just like go through and sharpen a bunch of our colored pencils, and my kids take those to school, or their regular pencils. Like, you just don't have to buy brand new art supplies. They're not going to get kicked out of class. I promise. Teachers, tell me what your thoughts are on this. If your kid gets sent to school with crayons that are not like perfectly sharp, like, is that okay? Comment on this podcast and let me know. Send me a DM. Number 11, do your coffee or chai at home, at least for 1 month. Like, do a 1 month challenge for yourself. I made my chai tea at home for like 3 years, and I've told the story, I think, on here, but basically I stopped. I'm not going to get into why at the beginning of this year. And I want to figure out how to make it back at home again in a way that I enjoy again. But for now, I'm kind of like, listen, this is one way that I'm not spending my money wisely, but that's okay because I'm so intense about spending my money wisely elsewhere. That might be you when it comes to, your gym membership or whatever, right? But I do want to say this one because it does matter. It's not a matter of like the dumb stuff online that's like, if you're a millennial, like, just stop buying avocado toast and stop buying your coffee at a store and you'll be able to afford a house. No, not true. However, it is a significant cost saving. So I went to this website that was pretty cool. It had this whole like entire article about how money actually saves, like how you actually save money when it comes to coffee at home versus a coffee shop. So basically, per year, an average latte will cost you like $5 at a place. So per year, that's $1,825. At home in a year, a latte costs about $1 to make. It's only $365 a year. So your cost savings in a year is $1,460. In 5 years, it's $7,300. You're trying to save for a house, that's actually not insignificant towards a down payment. In 5 years, $7,000. That's great. That's a great little chunk of change right there, my friends. Here are two really big things when it comes to things you can spend less money on. One is drive an older car. This falls into those big things that you might not be able to fix right now, or maybe you can because you've been tempted to buy a new car. Aaron drives my car to work that I bought in 2013 when I moved from New York to DC, and it is now 2024. So that car is 11 years old, and it's great. It does not cost a lot. It's a Ford Fusion. It does not cost money to upkeep. It's great on gas mileage, and he just drives an older car. And we don't have a car payment on that. I mean, that's amazing. We don't actually have any car payments, which is a blessing, but also a choice, right? Like, you don't have to drive a new car. So keep driving the car you have, or buy a used car or whatever. But like, I promise you, you're not going to be on your deathbed being like, I'm so glad that I spent my money on a monthly car payment. I promise you that's not it. Number 13, live in a smaller home. This is, again, a big one you can probably do nothing about right now. But you heard me talk about it with the lights and just like utilities, the amount that you save money on utilities, not to mention mortgage, but the amount of money you save on everything in a smaller house, because you aren't going to be tempted to fill your cabinets up with clutter. You're not going to be tempted to, all of that comes with a bigger house is more stuff. And so you're going to save a lot of money and time and energy and effort by living in a smaller home. So I just encourage you to consider that if you are ever in the market to move, that going smaller is a wonderful practical way to spend less money, to get out of debt, and to be more generous with your life, so that when you're on your deathbed, you're thinking, man, I really feel like I lived a purposeful life, not just I lived in a big house. Whoop-de-doo. And the last two here, number 14 and 15, ways to spend less money, are time-saving purchases. And these are a little tricky because the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences Journal published an interesting article that actually declared that buying time promotes happiness. What they mean by that is that they found that working adults reported greater happiness after spending money on a time-saving purchase rather than a material purchase. So this might be someone that you hire to do something for you, or a Roomba vacuum so you don't have to vacuum, anything that saves you time. But that doesn't mean you should just buy all the time-saving purchases, especially the ones that are material. like the Roomba. So let's get into the two that I wanted to talk about. Number 14 is something that we do, and we have a yard guy, but they only come every other week. So especially in Florida where we are, like the grass grows. It's like a magician points a wand at it and it grows. It's so bizarre. I promise you, yesterday I looked at my neighbor's yard and it was perfectly cut. And this morning I woke up and I looked at his yard, and not only is it the grass long, there's like 18 mushrooms in it. And I'm like, what kind of sorcery is this? And it's insane. And so we have to cut our grass a lot. And so last summer I didn't hire anyone because I was like, I'm not going to spend money on, I can do it myself. And then we got like a lot of notices from the HOA. Because I just couldn't keep up with it. It was too much. And so this year I was like, well, I want to get a yard guy because this is so stressful for me. I think this will increase my happiness. I think we can afford it. But it was a lot of money every week. And so I was like, what if I just ask him to come every other week? And so now I only have to mow the lawn twice a month, once every other week. That's not bad. And I don't mow our backyard because the HOA can't see it. So I never have to mow the backyard because he mows it every 2 weeks. And then I only mow the front yard every other week. It's great. So think about things like that. If you have something you're spending that's like a time-saving purchase, can you spend less on it? Can you save maybe a little less time and then meet yourself in the middle? You're saving money and you're saving time, but you're like not spending all your money, so instead of a yard guy coming every week, could they come every other week? A house cleaner, maybe the same thing. Instead of coming once a month, could they come once every 6 weeks? If you have the bandwidth in your budget to be able to afford these time-saving purchases and services, maybe consider just having them a little bit less often. So number 15 kind of goes along with the house cleaner thing, but I'm just going to big picture it and say declutter. Practical way to spend less money, declutter. It makes everything cheaper. Your house cleaner, cheaper, because you don't need them as often. If you do have a house cleaner that comes in, we do not. But your own time and energy spent, the amount you spend on cleaning products, because you don't need to use as much cleaning product when you have less crud to clean. For instance, you're not going to use as much laundry detergent if you don't have as much laundry to do because you've decluttered the amount of clothes that you own. You don't need to buy home organizational bins to organize all your clutter if you just get rid of it. You don't need all of the bins that they need to go in order, and baskets for them to live in. There are so many ways that decluttering can save you money, but I'm just going to leave it with those ones because I promise if you listen to this podcast, we will always talk more about how decluttering can benefit your life and save you money and all of that good stuff. But that's going to be my number 15. I'm going to leave it at that. Declutter as a practical way to spend less money. So there you go. The 15 practical ways to save money, to spend less in order to have more money that you can use towards a life of purpose. So I really, really hope that this gave you a couple of ideas, that it inspires you just to take these really simple, easy, practical steps and think through, what do I want to implement in my life? What can I be doing that will open up my finances in a way that can help me be more impactful with the money that I earn and the gifts that I've been given? It might just be as simple as turning off the lights religiously, So anyways, paring down our spending is a big topic. Of course, I can't cover it all in one episode, but I'm glad you came today, glad you're here, and I hope to see you next week. Bye. You just listened to an episode of Paring Down with me, Shannon Leyko. If you enjoyed the show, it would mean the world if you can leave a review wherever you listen and share this episode with a friend. Those reviews really are what keeps a podcast on its feet for the long haul, and I will read every single one with a huge smile on my face, so thank you ahead of time. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe. Also, be sure to follow along on Instagram at Paring Down Podcast, where I offer lots of tips and inspiration for paring down, along with what's new here on the podcast. Till next time.